Hey, David, how you doing there?
How are you doing today? It's been a long time since we talked.
It's been a little while.
Yeah,
I'm doing all right. We got a lot going on, obviously, but things are trucking along.
good. And that's what we're going to ask about here. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, good. So my name is David Schultz, editor-in-chief of the Minneapolis Times. Today is October 10th, 2025, and we are interviewing Jacob Frey, candidate for mayor of the city of Minneapolis. He's also the two-term incumbent and current mayor of Minneapolis. Again, thank you very much for sitting down with us to talk.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so believe it or not, there might actually be some people in Minneapolis who don't know who you are. There might be people who are new voters who've just moved into the city and so forth like that. So start off by telling me a little bit about, tell the residents of Minneapolis who you are and why you're running for mayor, or running for mayor again, whichever you want to do. No.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm Jacob Frey. I'm the mayor of Minneapolis. I'm a proud husband to Sarah Clark. I'm a proud father to Frida, who is 5 years old, and Estelle, who's about 9 weeks old. And I just moved my parents out to Minneapolis as well. I grew up not in Minneapolis. I grew up on the East Coast, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia. I fell in love with Minneapolis while running the Twin Cities Marathon. I remember being at around mile 12 or so and saying to myself, this is a beautiful city. And I moved my whole life out here the day after graduating law school. I got a job, and my legal career eventually led me towards community service. Community service led into politics, and the rest is history. This is a city that I love. It's a city that I want to make better, both for future generations and older generations. And I want to make sure we realize every bit of potential.
Excellent. Good. Okay. So I'm going to start off with something that most people don't do here. Tell me the 3 to 5 things that you think are great about Minneapolis or its strengths. And everybody always wants to focus on sort of the challenges. We'll get to those. But what's Minneapolis got going for it? 3 to 5 things, whatever you want to go with.
A whole lot. I'd say it'd be difficult for me even to limit it to 3 to 5. Okay. Let's start in the obvious place. We are the city of lakes, and we have the Mississippi River running right through the center of our city. That is something that is epic. We are a beautiful city in a park. That is what I first noticed when I ran the Twin Cities Marathon, and something I enjoy each and every day when I live here. We are a beautifully diverse city with an array of different people from different backgrounds and ethnicities, and it makes our city a better place. We're also a city where people truly believe that they can make a difference. And whether that's by working at their neighborhood association, or that's running for office, getting involved politically, or maybe you're just doing something through art. All of these pieces really make Minneapolis the place that we love. But I mean, I don't need to stop there. I mean, we got one of the best housing cities in the entire country. We've got the best arts district in the entire country. We're a great place for seniors. We're the happiest city in the entire country. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Wonderful. Good. Okay. So now we'll flip it around.
Yes.
The challenges. What do you see? Like, again, same thing, 3 to 5 or so, or whatever, challenges that the city's face. And I'm not necessarily saying problems, but challenges, that things that the city needs to address or needs to confront now, or let's say in the next few years.
Minneapolis is a big city, and we experience big city challenges. And while we are making huge progress in areas like safety, there still needs to be significant improvement. While we're one of the only cities in the country that is seeing a dramatic reduction in unsheltered homelessness, we still need to make significant improvements. It's okay to acknowledge that we are seeing improvement while at the same time we've got a long way to go. I mean, that's the very nature of where cities are now and will always be. They're constantly evolving, they're changing, and we're doing the necessary work to guide that along. I can certainly expand beyond that as well.
Sure. Okay. In your 8 years as mayor, I'm going to do a follow-up. In your 8 years of mayor, what are you most proud of? Or in terms of, like, again, 2 or 3 things that you're really happy about in terms of saying, after 8 years, I've seen X, Y, and Z in terms of improvement.
Yeah. So there's policy changes, certainly, that I'm proud of. Minneapolis is broadly recognized as the top housing city in the country. We're producing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable housing since before I took office. We have managed to keep rents down more than virtually any city in the country, not through rent control, which doesn't work, but through a combination of increasing supply of housing and increasing subsidy. We started a program called Stable Homes, Stable Schools that has now successfully housed over 6,000 kids in our Minneapolis public school system. And so housing is a passion that I came into office with and is still a passion that I have today. And the work that we have done from the 2040 comprehensive plan to deeply affordable housing is literally trend setting and nation leading. People around the country look to Minneapolis to see what we're doing. And, there are things that happen while you're in office, and certainly over the last 5 years that you don't anticipate. And a lot of those things, to be frank, are those that I'm most proud of. We've guided the city through some of the most difficult challenges that we've ever faced. I'm not the same mayor as I was when I took office in 2018. I'm not the same person. And you learn lessons that make you a better mayor, that make you a better leader. And I use those lessons every single day. And whether that's around emergency and crisis response, we saw obviously what a true and excellent response looks like following the horrific shooting at Annunciation. Or that's the work that it does to navigate what is at times a very difficult political system that it can be brutal. Mm-hmm. You get thicker skin as you've done time as mayor. It's not some of the moments when we got applause that I'm most proud of. It's, in fact, some of the moments where I've gotten booed that I'm look back on with the most pride. There was a moment outside my home following the murder of George Floyd where about 2,000 people came to my residence. They demanded that I come out. And they asked, will I commit to defunding and abolishing the police? And I said, no. We need massive culture shift and deep reform, but no, I'm not going to defund the police. And I was booed and shamed. I was spat on and had things thrown at me. And I thought maybe my political career was over. But I was certain that I did the right thing and I slept just fine that night. And now the video that I was super embarrassed about at the time, we now running campaign ads. Mm-hmm. And so over time, the things that I am most proud of are also the ones that were tough. Mm-hmm. The final thing that I'll mention to you, David, is one that maybe you will appreciate, but is not something that necessarily goes on literature. And that's this shift to the new government structure. Yeah. It is probably the most important and consequential thing that I will ever do in mm-hmm. public service. It's also not something that people are necessarily passionate about. We shifted our structure of government from a disjointed, confusing, at times messy system to what is known as a strong mayor system. I would attest that it's really just a regular mayor system. Mm-hmm. It is the system that St. Paul has, that Duluth has, that Chicago has, New York, the state legislature, the state of government, and the federal government. Mm-hmm. It is a system where you have a clear executive in the mayor that makes day-to-day operational decisions. And you have a clear legislative body with the council. They pass laws, they do constituent services, and there's clarity between the two. While that system has technically changed, or at least much of it has technically changed, there's still 100 years of culture baked into the walls of City Hall. And this is actually a big part of why I'm running for a final term. It's to get that work done, solidify it mm-hmm. for the sake of the next mayor, so I can hand the reins off to them with mm-hmm. a city that is in fine form that they can run. Okay.
All right. So I want to... Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay.
No. I was just saying that was a lot that I just said to you, but it's important stuff.
It is important stuff here. It is the I used to work in local government back in New York, and structure of government, structure and process matters.
It
And
does.
it's oftentimes not the sexiest stuff in the world, but structure and process is about the heart and soul of democracy. It's about how we govern ourselves. So it's very important in terms of it
It
here.
is.
All right.
It is.
Yep. I want to follow up on something we were talking about, about like the housing program, and you were talking about education here. Okay. Now, you know as well as I know that technically mayors are not responsible for the school system. However, of course, mayors get judged for lots of things that they're not under your control here. And we know that Minnesota and Minneapolis is also challenged in a variety of ways, in the K through 12 educational system here. Okay. What do you think mayors can do to really sort of strengthen K through 12 education? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because again, I know technically not responsible for it, but voters look to you and look to the government to address these types of issues.
You're asking the right question because while, yes, technically mayors do not have any authority, there are a few things that are as consequential to the success or failure of a city as the success or failure of our schools.
Sure.
And so here's how we look at it. We help to provide a foundation from which these schools can succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We know that a kid can't possibly succeed in math or reading if they don't know where they're going to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
So we started a program called Stable Homes, Stable Schools. It recognized that around 8.5% of the Minneapolis public school age population was either experiencing homelessness or on the verge of it. And so what Stable Homes, Stable Schools does is it gives them a home, hopefully within a certain radius of that school itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found is not only did it stabilize that child, that student,
Mm-hmm.
but it also stabilized the classroom because you don't then have kids moving from one school to another multiple times in the year, which is disruptive to the classroom, makes it more difficult on the teacher, and ultimately doesn't work. And so we started this program. It has been wildly successful. Other cities are trying to replicate it right now.
Right.
And it's something that we want to continue and expand even further. We provide assistance to put clinics in schools as well, to provide health care, mental health care, a variety of different services that can go in these clinics. But it doesn't stop there. We do work around safe routes to school. We work directly with our superintendent. Actually, I'm meeting with her, I think, in the next several days to make sure that we're planning and preparing for what could come down the pike these next several months. And so I always say, there's one of the most important relationships that happens is with the school superintendent. Even if it's not a day-to-day relationship, it's one that is absolutely critical.
All right, good. All right, so let's say congratulations. You win and you're reelected. All right. What are you going to make as your, let's say, small handful of priorities that you want to work on? Because you just mentioned to me that, at least for now, envisioning it to be your third, maybe your final term at this point. But where do you want to put sort of your political capital going in for the next 4 years, assuming you were to win re-election?
It's a great question. The priorities, the policy areas have not changed, but the laser focus on them perhaps is different.
Okay.
Look, we're going to keep doing the work around affordable housing to make sure that everybody has the ability to live in a great city, and we're bringing people up and out of homelessness. Safety has to be the top priority for any mayor, and we need to continue to drive down crime. We need to recruit more police officers. We have fewer officers per capita right now than virtually any city in the country. And while we are seeing a 135% increase in applications that are coming in, the numbers are going dramatically up right now. We need to make sure that work continues. And we want to see this city through a massive shift in terms of how downtown functions and how our city is recovering post COVID-19. Huge changes. You can go on for 45 minutes about each one of them.
Of course.
You know, and then the final thing, which I've already mentioned, is making sure that we can solidify this new structure of government.
Okay.
There needs to be clarity, not just over the substance of these policy issues, but also the procedural dynamic of who has authority over what.
Okay.
That will be one of the ways that we're able to truly improve the city for the long haul.
Very good. A follow-up with this one.
Please.
How will voters know, or how will you know if you're successful? Because at some point, people want to, naturally want to make judgments, and sort of say, good mayor, not a good mayor, accomplishment like that. What will be your benchmarks for, and I think you're sort of hitting at it already here.
Yeah.
What would be some of your benchmarks to say, yeah, voters look to this. If I do this, I'm successful, I'm not as successful. What would you want the voters to look at?
Well, I think there's a number of areas where you can just look at the objective work that we have done.
Right.
Now, with any mayor in any time throughout history, you actually have to deal with the real world. Look, on my first campaign in 2017, I don't think the word pandemic was said a single time.
That's right.
And so, granted, you can have a plan. Everybody's got a plan, as Mike Tyson says, until you get punched in the face.
Right.
And yeah, we took a punch in 2020. A global pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, an economic downturn, a budget crisis. There was a lot. But if you look since that time, our city has been rebounding in fine form. Police recruitment, with an objective figure, is up. People should insist that I get those numbers up, and I work with the council to make that happen. Affordable housing. Those numbers, again, we're setting records with the amount of deeply affordable housing that we're bringing into the city. People should absolutely look at that. Being able to drive homelessness down.
Okay.
If you look at the numbers again since the pandemic, they have gone substantially down, and we need to continue that trend going forward. So look, as mayor, the buck stops with me. I am the responsible party. I want to be the responsible party, and we need a team of people, both in our administration and on the city council, that is doing the good work to improve the lives for the people of our city.
Very good. Okay. You mentioned earlier, and we know that not just with you, but there's been a historic, let us say, contentious relationship between the mayor's office and city council. Again, we can't forecast what's going to happen in terms of the election, who's going to get elected, this November to council here. But any thoughts on, again, going into another term in terms of ideas or strategies in terms of, again, adjusting to that new mayor system, which is still very, very new, but just overall thoughts on managing, let us say, mayor-councilmatic relationships?
People should expect the mayor's office and the council to work together in good faith. And I will work in good faith with anybody that is willing to work with me in good faith. And by the way, we saw those relationships in the previous term and in the term before that. And all the same, and we've seen this especially over the last couple of years, I won't abdicate my responsibility to do what is right for the city.
Okay.
And sometimes, yes, that means disagreeing with the council. I represent every one of approximately 435,000 people that call Minneapolis home, and many more that come and go. I am charged with doing the work that looks out not just for one ward or one special interest, but everybody in Minneapolis. I take that responsibility very seriously, and there are times when I have to push back. And if you look at each one of those times, I'm proud that I did, because it was the right decision. And so if you look at the next term, we will find projects to work with every single council member, regardless of whether they're with me or not. We also want to set ground rules, and I'm not expecting people to agree with me. I don't need conformity. But there are a few things that I ask for. I ask for people to say the same thing in public that they say to me in private. I ask for people to tell the truth. I ask for people to show up, literally and figuratively, to work. You got to do the job, because people are paying us to do this job. And then finally, you got to love your city more than your ideology. And that means not just caving to whatever the loudest voices in the room are telling you to do. That means doing what is right, especially when it's tough.
Early voting started September 19th already. What would you say to voters to make them your first choice? Because the city has, I should point out, for people who don't realize, or who are new voters, the city has ranked choice voting. So you get to show up and you get to cast a ballot for your first choice and make second choices and so forth like that. What would you say to a voter to say, make me your first choice? But then what would you say to voters to say, if I'm not your first choice, make me your second choice?
Sure. Look, we have gone hand in hand over these last 5 years through adversity, and our city is coming back. And I am asking for your first choice vote because we need to continue this great comeback that Minneapolis is seeing. And you all deserve to see the benefit of all of the experience that my administration and I personally have gained. This is not a time for on-the-job training with Donald Trump in office, with all the chaos that we've seen going on worldwide. Now is a time for good governance. Now is a time to get the job done and see results. And that's why I'm asking for your first choice. If for some reason you decide not to rank me as your first choice, look, I understand that there are different perspectives in the city. I understand that not everybody agrees with me 100% of the time, and oftentimes it's probably a lot less than that. And that's part of being mayor.
Yeah.
And so I get it. But I would ask for your second choice vote. And by the way, even if you don't give me your first or your second choice vote, I still represent you. I want to hear from you, even if we don't agree, and especially when we don't agree. What I value is constructive and civil debate.
Okay.
And this is another topic, David, but I do feel that there are times when we've gone far astray from that. And we as a society need to get back to a place where we can disagree, have a constructive debate, at times even change our minds because the person sitting across the table's got a better argument than you do. And you make the best possible decisions for our city.
Good. All right. Before we close, anything else you'd like to say to the voters of Minneapolis? And with that also, if people want more information, where can they get more information? And then also, if they want to get involved, how can they get involved?
Yeah. Well, look, there are substantial differences between the mayoral candidates this year. There are massive differences in experience. It takes some work, and it takes having learned from going through what we've been through over the last 5 years to be able to run and manage a approximately 4,000 person entity, which is the city enterprise. There are some significant policy differences. And, what I would tell people is the opposite of Donald Trump extremism is not the opposite extreme. The opposite of Donald Trump extremism is good, thoughtful governance where you are following the data and you are listening to experts and you're loving your city more than you love your ideology. That is the way that I govern. I don't govern with a set outcome in mind. I govern with what is best for Minneapolis. And, sometimes that means pushing back on this harmful cause to defund the police, which my opponent went for, and I said no. Sometimes it meant pushing back on rent control, which my opponent is for. Sometimes it says, hey, you know what? We need to be providing compassion and care to homeless encampments, but once service has been offered, once health services has been provided, once shelter options have been offered again and again, yeah, you got to clear a homeless encampment. These are differences, significant differences, and then my opponent is saying, you can't ever close a homeless encampment. It doesn't make sense. And so I guess just in conclusion here, there are significant differences. What I will tell you is the truth. What I will give you is a both optimistic approach, but one that is grounded in the reality of running a city.
And then again, if people want more information or if they want to get involved with your campaign, how would they do it?
Well, you can reach out to us and get involved by just going to the website, which is at Jacob Frey, which is JACOBFREY.org, jacobfrey.org. You can always reach out to my office on the official side and schedule a meeting. We would love to hear from you.
Excellent. Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. And good luck to you come November.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.